Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ancient Mythology Stories channel. Today, I will present a brief biography of former US President Barack Obama Part 2. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You want to see these old stories every day. Let's get started. On August 27th, Obama became the first African American to be nominated for the presidency by either major party and went on to challenge Republican Sen. John McCain for the country's highest office. McCain criticized Obama, still a first-term senator, as being too inexperienced for the job. To counter, Obama selected Joe Biden, a veteran senator from Delaware who had a long resume of foreign policy expertise, to be his vice presidential running mate. Obama and McCain waged a fierce and expensive contest. Obama, still bolstered by a fever of popular support, issued federal financing of his campaign and raised hundreds of millions of dollars, much of it coming in small donations and over the internet from a record number of donors. Obama's fundraising advantage helped him by massive amounts of television advertising and organized deep grassroots organizations in key battleground states and in states that had voted Republican in previous presidential cycles. The two candidates offered a stark ideological choice for voters. Obama called for a swift withdrawal of most combat forces from Iraq and a restructuring of tax policy that would bring more relief to lower and middle-class voters, while McCain said the United States must wait for full victory in Iraq and charged that Obama's rhetoric was long on eloquence, but short on substance. Just weeks before Election Day, Obama's campaign seized on the economic meltdown that had resulted from the catastrophic failure of U.S. banks and financial institutions in September, calling it a result of the Republican free market-driven policies of the 8-year administration of George W. Bush. Obama won the election, capturing nearly 53% of the popular vote and 365 electoral votes. Not only did he hold all the states that John Kerry had won in the 2004 election, but he also captured a number of states, e.g., Colorado, Florida, Nevada, Ohio, and Virginia that the Republicans had carried in the previous two presidential elections. On election night, tens of thousands gathered in Chicago's Grant Park to see Obama claim victory. Shortly after his win, Obama resigned from the Senate on January 20, 2009. Hundreds of thousands turned out in Washington, D.C. to witness Obama taking the oath of office as president. Presidency, the Nobel Peace Prize, and partisanship. In an effort to improve the image of the United States abroad, which many believed had been much damaged during the Bush administration, Obama took a number of steps that indicated a significant shift in tone. He signed an executive order that banned excessive interrogation techniques, ordered the closing of the controversial military detention facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, within a year, a deadline that was not met, proposed a fresh start to strained relations with Russia, and traveled to Cairo in June 2009 to deliver a historic speech in which he reached out to the Muslim world. Largely as a result of these efforts, Obama was awarded the 2009 Nobel Peace Prize. Yet some left-wing critics complained that he actually had adopted and even escalated most of the war and national security policies of his predecessor. Indeed, when Obama accepted the Nobel Prize in December, he said, "Evil does exist in the world, and there will be times when nations acting individually or in concert, will find the use of force not only necessary but morally justified. Notwithstanding that tough talk, there were others who criticized Obama for issuing only a mild condemnation of the Iranian government's crackdown on pro-democracy dissidents. Following a disputed election in June 2009, moreover, the Obama administration's handling of national security was questioned by some. When a Nigerian terrorist trained in Yemen was thwarted in an attempt to bomb an airliner headed for Detroit on Christmas Day 2009. After enjoying soaring popularity early in his term, Obama became the target of increasing criticism, largely due to the slow pace of economic recovery and continued high unemployment rates, but also because of widespread opposition to Democratic efforts to reform healthcare insurance policy. The signature issue of the Obama presidential campaign. Obama had entered office promising to bring an end to partisan squabbling and legislative gridlock, yet in the wake of the failure to obtain any real bipartisan cooperation, congressional Democrats, according to Republicans, had settled into governing without substantive Republican involvement. Republicans, on the other hand, according to Democrats, had become the party of no, seeking to obstruct Democratic legislative initiatives without offering real alternative proposals. It was in this highly polarized environment that Obama and the Democrats attempted to enact health care insurance reform. Passage of health care reform. Health care reform, popular with Americans during the election, became less so as legislators presented the proposed changes to their constituents in town hall meetings in summer 2009. That sometimes erupted into shouting matches between those with opposing viewpoints. It was at this time that the populist Tea Party movement, comprising libertarian-minded conservatives, emerged in opposition to the Democratic health care proposals, but more generally in opposition to what they saw as excessive taxes and government involvement in the private sector. Republicans across the board complained that Democratic proposals constituted a government takeover of healthcare that would prove too costly and mortgage the future of generations to come. Their opposition to the Democratic plans was virtually lockstep. In many respects, the president left the initiative for health care reform in the hands of congressional leaders. House Democrats responded in November 2009 by passing a bill that called for sweeping reform, including the creation of a public option, a lower-cost, government-run program that would act as competition for private insurance companies. The Senate was more deliberate in its consideration. Obama seemed to let conservative Democrat Sen. Max Baucus take the lead in that body, at the head of the group of 6, comprising 3 Republican and 3 Democratic senators. The resulting bill, that was passed by the Senate holding the allegiance of all 58 Democrats, plus independents Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Joe Lieberman of Connecticut. It barely survived a filibuster attempt by Republicans, proved to provide far fewer changes than its House counterpart, most notably leaving out the public option before a compromise could be reached on the 2 bills. The triumph of Republican Scott Brown in the special election for the seat formerly held by Sen. Ted Kennedy destroyed the Democrats' filibuster-proof majority. Many Democrats believed this meant that they would have to start over, as Republicans had been demanding. Obama and other Democratic leaders, especially Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, thought otherwise and continued to push for passage. Obama went on the offensive, skillfully moderating a nationally telecast summit of Republicans and Democrats at which the pros and cons of the Democratic proposals were debated. He also took his case outside the Beltway in speech after speech, emphasizing the message that health care was a right and not a privilege, and increasingly sharpening his criticism of the insurance industry. In March 2010, in an attempt to win the support of Democrats in the House who opposed the legislation because they felt it would weaken limitations on abortion funding, Obama promised to sign an executive order guaranteeing that it would not. With that crucial group on board, Pelosi confidently brought the Senate bill to the House floor for a special vote on Sunday night, March 21st. The bill passed 219 to 212-30 for Democrats, and all the Republicans voted against it, and was followed by passage of a second bill that proposed fixes for the Senate bill. Democrats plan to employ the relatively infrequently used procedure known as reconciliation, which requires only a simple majority for passage to get these fixes through the Senate. Speaking on television shortly after the House vote, Obama told the country, "This is what change looks like." On March 23rd, Obama signed the bill into law. Senate Republican efforts to force another House vote on the bill of proposed fixes included the introduction of more than 40 amendments that were voted down along party lines. Ultimately, on March 25th, the Senate voted 56 to 43 to pass the bill, which, because of procedural violations in some of its language, had to be returned to the House, where it passed again by a vote of 220 to 207. No Republicans in either house voted for the bill. The legislation would, once all its elements had taken effect over the next 4 years, prohibit denial of coverage on the basis of pre-existing conditions, and extend health care to some 30 million previously uninsured Americans. The bill made the attainment of health care insurance mandatory for all citizens, but it also called for a tax increase on the wealthiest Americans that would largely bankroll subsidies for premium payments for families earning less than $88.00 per year. Moreover, the bill promised a tax credit to small businesses that provide coverage for their employees. In some corners, the bill was considered an unconstitutional government takeover of an industry representing 1/6 of the economy, and in others it was hailed as legislation as monumental as that which had come out of the civil rights movement.